Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
So how many of you have heard me talk about computational thinking before? Okay, so I'm going to, given that I'm late and I need to breeze through a lot of these slides, I am going to go through the first half of my talk pretty quickly. So first half of my talk is actually to refresh your memory as to what my big vision is for the field on computational thinking and what it implies with respect to research and education, research in many disciplines, not just computer science. And then I would like to share with you what I've been able to do, how this vision of mine, which I put forth in 2006, has played out over the past 2.5 years. With respect to the external response that we got beyond Carnegie Mellon, and also the impact that we've had in terms of galvanizing the community to revisit undergraduate curriculum and so forth. And then I'd like to actually close with what I would call a reality check, that there are plenty of opportunities for computer science to be looking at with respect to computational thinking for everyone, and I'd just like to share those with you. So my grand vision for the field is, and I've been saying this for 2.5 years now, computational thinking will be a fundamental skill used by everyone in the world by the middle of the 21st century, just like reading, writing, and arithmetic. So this was the ambition of mine, that every child would know how to think like a computer scientist. And of course, it will be incestuous in that computing and computers will enable us to spread computational thinking. Now, if you take this vision to an extreme, it really does have implications with respect to how research is conducted in every other discipline. So from science to engineering to humanities, history, art, and so on. And what has been gratifying in seeing the past couple of years is that it really is, we're really seeing the evidence of computational thinking in every other discipline's focus of work. This also has implications with respect to education. Obviously, at a university or colleges, we can look at how this might pervade an undergraduate curriculum in computer science, or more broadly speaking, for the university curriculum. But now what's more interestingly been happening in the past couple of years is that people are actually looking at the lower grades, K through 12 in particular. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that are going on at that level. And so I say computational thinking 2.5 years later because it was actually in March 2006 when my little 3-page viewpoint article came out in CACM, and that was picked up by many people, and that was quite gratifying too. Okay, so I'm going to very quickly share with you the new way I think about computational thinking is in terms of 2 A's. So the first A to computational thinking is abstraction. I mean, that's our bread and butter. Abstractions are what I call our mental tools. And when we talk about abstractions, we really mean this whole abstraction process. So that's first identifying the right abstraction, or choosing the right abstraction, or defining new abstractions for the problem at hand. And remember, an abstraction is one of those things where you ignore irrelevant detail and pay attention to the detail that is of interest. So it's not hiding all detail, but it's paying attention to the detail that's relevant at hand. Then the other thing that I think in computing that's particularly different, say, from other fields that also uses abstractions, is that we're always worried about, operating at 2 levels of abstraction at least at the same time. So we talk about specification and implementation, we talk about an API, we are always talking about translation, compilation, and so on. So we have to and it's through our layers of abstraction that we're able to build the kind of complex systems that we so enjoy on a daily basis. Now, once you acknowledge that you're always working at multiple layers of abstraction at the same time, then you also have to understand precisely, hopefully, the relationships between the different layers. And so the abstraction process includes all 3 of these pieces. And we as computer scientists, this is kind of the way in which we approach everything. Problem solving, understanding human behavior, designing systems, and so on. So these are our mental tools. The second A to computational thinking is recognizing that the power of our mental tools is amplified by our mental tools. So that's the big iron, the networking, and cell phones, and so on. So automation is the second A. Automation is mechanizing our abstractions, abstraction layers, and their relationships. So a compiler merely is an automation of a precise relationship between two layers of abstraction. And then mechanization is, of course, possible due to our very precise and exacting notations and models. And when you talk about automation, the very first question you have to answer is, what machine, what computer are you talking about with respect to executing those abstractions? So what is the computer that's mechanizing these abstractions? And I want to be quite broad here. I think this particular audience at Carnegie Mellon would appreciate this. By computer, I mean not just a mechanical computer. I also mean a human. Because a human, after all, is a kind of computer. And the real vision for tomorrow is the computer, and this again is perfect for the Carnegie Mellon audience, is a network of humans and machines working together. So you get the combination of human intelligence and machine intelligence working together with this bigger intelligence where they're both complementing each other. Okay, so the two A's combined. Computing is the automation of our abstractions. They give us the audacity and ability to scale. This should be no surprise to you. So computational thinking, then, is just choosing the right abstractions and the whole process I described, and then choosing the right computer for the task, where the computer might also involve the human being. Okay, so this is the part of the talk I'm going to breeze through. It's going to basically show how computational thinking is already influencing other disciplines in how it is they conduct their own research. And I really, I'd like to now make a distinction between what I would call deep computational thinking in terms of algorithms and data structures and processes and methods and models of computational abstractions that we add to other disciplines, as opposed to the more shallow, where you kind of use brute force compute power, and where we're seeing more of a in-between is when lots of people basically have lots of data. And I think this is no surprise to any of you. And what we're seeing a beautiful use of now, pervasive use, is throwing machine learning at it. So a lot of these examples are going to be examples of throwing statistical machine learning at lots of data. But that's just the start of what computer science has to offer to all these other disciplines. So I'm going to very, very quickly go through these examples. Computational other sciences, math and engineering. The easiest, most obvious one, if I were to ask, what is the first science you think of that has been greatly influenced by computational thinking, what would be the first science you would say? Biology! Yes! Everyone gets a prize. Okay, so obviously, starting with a shotgun sequencing algorithm, that expedited the sequencing of the human genome. I know this work here at Carnegie Mellon, looking at DNA sequences as strings in a language. I know current work going on with using model checking to understand the dynamics of biological processes, protein folding, and so on. So it's there, and it's great to see all of this. And my second example is brain science. Again, something that Carnegie Mellon has been doing a lot of with Tom Mitchell's work on analyzing fMRI data with machine learning. Modeling the brain as a computer. People are now revisiting this, trying to, anyway, this is the part I'm breezing through. Okay, another area, I think, again, not surprising to people here in the audience, would be chemistry. The idea there is, rather than look at what nature provides and trying to figure out what does it do, say, I'd like something that does this. That is, write your specification and then say, go find me some combination of molecules that will satisfy that specification. Okay, that sounds like an enormous search space, combinatoric problem and so on. Well, that's computational thinking, and in fact, this is not new. I understand that many, many years ago, NASA was able to discover a new ceramic based on that kind of approach. They needed a particular material that would withstand certain kinds of temperature and pressure and so on, and and they didn't have anything in their dictionary, if you will, so that's the approach they took. So this has actually been happening for many years. Geology is one of my favorite ones now. Now that at the National Science Foundation, there's a whole directorate called Geosciences. I didn't know that before I went to NSF. And what are they interested in?
Oil.
More than that. They're interested in modeling the Earth. The Earth from the inner core to the Earth's surface to the sun. And they want to model every single system, the cryosphere, the hydrosphere, the atmosphere, that's just the water part, the land, the biosphere. And with these models, they want to be able to handle multiple time scales, multiple spatial resolution scales, and they want to be able to predict the climate on the order of 10 to 20 years out. Not 100 years out, because we're not interested in 100 years out, but we are interested in 10 years from now. Why? And they kind of want to predict the climate as good as, or actually better than the way we can predict weather. So they want to be able to go to your climate map on the daily basis and say, what's the climate going to be like? And why is that? Because they want to give a scientifically based tool to the policymakers, like your mayor or your local politician, to be making policy decisions based on science, based on how the region is going to change. So when San Francisco first announced that they would ban plastic bags in the supermarkets, I thought, why did they do that? Was that based on some scientific reason, or and you like to know that in the grand scheme of things, that was a good scientific. There was a good scientific reason for doing that. It would save the environment in some way. I don't know that was done, but in any case, the other good thing about this example is that the geoscientists are looking to us for the solutions. They know it's not going to be exaflops that are going to solve our problems. First of all, they're drowning in data, so they know there's a data problem. And the other is they know that in order to model each one of their systems, let alone the interactions of all these systems, they're going to need new algorithms, new data structures, a new understanding of layers of system abstractions so that they can talk about one system at a time, and also systems interacting with each other. So they are looking to us. Literally, the AD in Geo turns his head to me and said, we need your help. So it's a great opportunity. Okay, astronomy, this is something, again, here locally, many of you are interested in. I know that Carnegie Mellon has already made inroads in this, starting with a lot of great work that Andrew Moore has done. And I don't need to say more, except that we are actually discovering new things about the sky because of computational thinking. Mathematics, here's an example of kind of the brute force application of computing, but in fact discovering fundamentally new math, because one wouldn't dare, say 20 years ago, of even doing this kind of experiment. And then in engineering, engineering has always been using computation for modeling, prediction, and simulation. They're going to need it just that much more, and they are using it quite seriously, because when you can actually calculate those higher order terms, you can actually cut down, be more precise, and therefore be more cost effective, both in manufacturing and design. My example here is that the Boeing 777 was tested via computer simulation alone. They didn't use a wind tunnel at all. That's pretty scary. Because they rely on our models. Now, the Boeing 787, they did use a wind tunnel, but they have other problems in manufacturing. Okay, so beyond science and engineering, Economics, that's the hot area now. Computer science and economics coming together, colliding. And it's obviously for us in computer science, we're looking to the economists and things like game theory, and Tomas, I see you in the audience. Automated mechanism design underlies electronic commerce today in terms of ad placement, online auctions, kidney exchange. The other interesting thing that's happening is that the electronic marketplace, what we have invented with respect to the use of the internet for doing commerce, has pushed to the economists, pushed the models in economics to their limits. In other words, maybe Nash equilibria are not the right things we should be looking for. Maybe those models are not pertinent to the electronic marketplace that we have today. We need new models, new economic models. And so there's now this interesting dialogue happening between computer scientists and economists. We need economists actually to be, okay. Social sciences, the social networks explaining phenomena such as MySpace and YouTube, and again, statistical machine learning used for recommendation and reputation services in the sense of computational thinking and influencing social science. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this one particular example in medicine is virtual colonoscopy, which is now a procedure of choice at various clinics and hospitals, including the Mayo Clinic and Walter Reed Hospital. And the reason I point this example out is it required new hardware, new mathematics in terms of topology, applying topology to understand the folds and structure of the colon, new visualization techniques for actually taking the scans I had and reconstructing the 3D object, and then squashing it to a 2D display so that the doctor, in the end, does the right thing. So it was really a layer of computational methods that had to be pulled together to make this thing happen. One of my most recent examples is actually in the humanities. So a few weeks ago, I had visitors from the National Endowment for the Humanities and the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And they were talking to me about basically computational thinking for historians and scholars in all the arts. And they said that they talked about many different examples. So one of the projects they wanted to run is something they call a competition to the community, and it would be an open competition using the web of what would you do with 1 million books? And I said to them, 1 million? 1 million's nothing. But to a historian, 1 million is a lot. How many books can you read in a lifetime? You cannot read 1 million books in a lifetime. And all of a sudden, if you give the historian this ability to access 1 million books at once, and you can discover patterns and trends that you couldn't possibly even ask about if you were actually reading those 1 million books. That is, if you will, computational thinking influencing the way other people think. So you get that example? And they're so excited about this. And I said, 1 million is really not a lot. They said, we'll start with 1 million because that will be enough for them. So I think that'll be pretty exciting. And I think we're just beginning to see how computational thinking is being played out in law. Certainly in criminology, there are many examples there. We're seeing computational thinking in entertainment. We've got whole companies like DreamWorks using a whole data center just to render one movie. Lucasfilms builds their own data centers just to render one movie. The arts, this is a robotic sculpture in O'Hare Airport. And then even in sports, we have, again, the use of machine learning to process videotapes of professional athletes to understand how they move so that coaches can then teach their students how professionals actually work.
Jeannette, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do you have time for a question?
No. Okay, I will take a question now.
Can you go back to that slide?
In some of these, I see computational thinking, and some of them I see the old-fashioned use of the computer as a tool.
Yes, that's completely right, and that's what I was trying to say before. That I'm trying to make a distinction. I mean, I actually welcome all uses of computing, whether it's just the abstraction, or the metal tools, or the mental tools. But what I'm really promoting is the use more of the mental tools, the abstractions. And I know, and what I'm getting at is what I imagine the future being is more of the use of the mental tools. But right now, a lot of it is the metal tools, or if you will, a lot of it is what I said before, throwing machine learning at large data sets. But I see that there's more potential for us as a field to bring new abstractions to these other disciplines. So, for instance, humanities is one of those examples. But okay, so what about educational implications? I was really thinking about this whole pipeline, and as I've been talking with lots of people, educators at other colleges and universities, they've been basically saying, including the Slides Advisory Committee, to focus on the early grades. So this actually, it makes a lot of sense, but it actually raises a really, really hard question and challenge, I think, for all of us. And I phrase it like this. If we're really going to be serious about computational thinking for children, so the question then is, what are effective ways of learning computational thinking by children? And I break that into two parts. One is, what would those concepts of computational thinking be if we were to actually try to figure out what we would teach children? And by analogy, we've somehow figured out over the years that we teach numbers in kindergarten and algebra in 7th grade and calculus by 12th grade. So we know what concepts children can learn at what age level, and we know what concepts we would like to be able to teach in mathematics, and we kind of can sequence the concepts that we would want the children to learn, so by 12th grade they can do calculus, with their ability to abstract and reason and so on as it progresses over the years. So the question that I pose to the community is, what's the analogy for computer science? Well, this is a question. I don't have the answers. And in fact, this question is starting people to think about, well, how would we answer this question? Now, that's part one of the question. Part two of the question actually recognizes that we have another thing to bring to the table, which is the computer. So we can use this computer as a device to enhance the learning of these concepts. Right? That's what we would like to be able to do. At what point do you introduce what part of the machine as you're teaching these concepts? And we don't want to get into the situation where learning how to use the computer deceives you into thinking that you actually understand the concepts. And the analogy there is, learning how to use a calculator hardly says that you necessarily know arithmetic. So we don't want to go in that direction. And so this is a serious set of questions, really, and that I pose as a challenge to the computing community. The physicists started thinking about this decades ago. The mathematicians are always revisiting models of teaching mathematics, but at least they address this question. And if we took this vision of mine seriously, then we as computer scientists should be thinking about what would be answers to these kinds of questions. Okay, so 2.5 years later, what has ensued? The external community response to this vision has been quite big. So outside of Carnegie Mellon, outside of computer science, outside of science and engineering, and even outside of the US. And what I wanted to share with you are some of the snippets of what has happened in the past 2.5 years, as well as what I've been able to do now that I'm at NSF. Okay, so let's talk about research impact, and then I'll talk about educational impact. So with respect to research, even before the CACM article came out, Andrew Herbert had heard me talk about computational thinking at a Microsoft Asia Tech Faculty Summit, and he put in the 2020 Science document on page 20 an excerpt from my writing on computational thinking. So he was already spreading the word in the UK, and with the 2020 Science report. That got picked up by Nature, and eventually I was able to get some money from Microsoft to support the idea. That's what is running the seminar series. There is a similar kind of interest in computational thinking for everything, for all disciplines. At the University of Edinburgh, they run a seminar series. If you go to their seminar list, you'll see that it's very much like this one that you're running here. The British Computing Society has been thinking about computational thinking very broadly in terms of K through 12 education. And so that's kind of what's happening. My article was translated in Spanish and Chinese, so it reaches a lot of people now, if you want. So that's what's been happening with respect to before I got to NSF. Now that I'm at NSF, I had this fortuitous opportunity through the Cyber-Enabled Discovery and Innovation program to really spread computational thinking to the entire science and engineering community that all of NSF reaches. The CDI, in a nutshell, is computational thinking for science and engineering. And literally, I got to NSF last July 1st, 2007, and by July 18th, I was creating the CDI working group. So this was like, you know, I'm new on the job, and I had this opportunity, and I kind of ran with it. So it's really recognizing this paradigm shift. It's not just our metal tools, but also our mental tools. And so, Seth, in more specific answer to your question, this has been an education process that I have had to do for the people within NSF and for them to then share with the community. But through CDI, for instance, the word is getting out. So now they are recognizing it's not just big iron. And the CDI is a program is really about partnerships and what we call transformative research. And there are two requirements that are quite explicit in the program solicitation. And one is to innovate in or innovatively use computational thinking. And the other is to advance more than one science or engineering, where computer science counts as one. So this is quite fortuitous timing for me. Let me just share with you the response. We got 1,800 letters of intent, 1,300 preliminary proposals, which we had to whittle down to, inviting only 200 to submit a final proposal to. We made 36 awards. Originally, we were budgeted to make only about 21 awards, but the internal response to what we got proposed to us was so tremendous, so supportive of computational thinking in their own science and engineering, that the directorates and the offices throughout all of the foundation put in more money to support the proposals that came through. So we were able to make many more awards than we originally expected to. Let me just show you the range of disciplines in the CDI awards that we gave out for FY08, and you can see it's really quite broad. So I could have, started my talk with, examples from each of these different disciplines, and it was all via advances via computational thinking. So this is quite gratifying to me. One last thing about CDI. It wasn't just, kind of advancing, say, computing and physics in a vacuum. Many of these proposals actually talked about how these advances were going to address grand challenges in society. And so it's also quite bold and visionary on the PI's part. Okay, what about education impact? There's been a tremendous amount of different activities, and Tom, I know you're involved in at least a couple of them, with respect to computational thinking at multiple levels in multiple stages in the pipe. So first of all, even before I got to NSF, there was all this stuff going on at other colleges and universities. Carnegie Mellon with Tom's course, MIT, John Guttak's new course, and I think he wants to write a book on that. Georgia Tech, there was all this stuff going on with threads. Alejo is on the undergraduate committee that's revisiting the undergraduate curriculum across all of Columbia University. Princeton, there was this stuff going on, Picasso. Harvard, there's this institute that's been trying to promote computational thinking across the curricula. There's some modules now that you can get off of a website at Northwestern that has computational thinking in different disciplines. And even as I've been going around giving talks and meeting with people at many other universities, smaller colleges, they're all revisiting their curriculum. So this is all kind of consistent with what I imagined happening. SIGC, this is something Tom remembers. We were part of a special session on computational thinking, and there was a birds of a feather session. And then there are now these brochures you can get put out by Microsoft. And CSTA is the Computer Science Teachers Association. So there's a lot of movement in front. Now, what about when I got to NSF? NSF has two educational programs in my directorate having to do with computer science. One is CPath, which is revisiting undergraduate curricula. And the first thing I did in going there was to enlarge the scope to include outreach to K through 12. This is speaking directly to the vision of its many stages of the pipeline. There's another program on broadening participation in computing that focuses specifically on women, underrepresented minorities, and people with disabilities. Now, if we look at the CPath Awards for FY07 and FY08, these are the ones that I pulled out that are specific to computational thinking. And you can see the universities and the schools that are involved, engaged throughout the country. So this is pretty impressive to me. Because I was basically barely there, and all of this was already happening. And then with just one little message in the solicitation, all of a sudden you get this just reach. It's incredible. There's a few things that are specific I wanted to mention. One is that I know Tom is involved in this, is re-envisioning the AP CS exam. And so NSF is funding a small effort. And we have an academic advisory committee, and I think, Tom, you're on that. That's going to probably, it's going to take a few years, I know, to get it right. But I think the determination is there and the goal is there, and hopefully, we have this opportunity. It's a grand opportunity. I hope we really use it well. There's an effort that we're funding with a radio station in Boston having to do with improving the image of computing. And there are a whole bunch of alliances. I mentioned the one here that you probably know about on robotics. And so that's some of the efforts going on in broadening participation. Beyond what I'm doing in my own directorate, which are these two programs, one of the things that we are funding with the National Academies is a couple of workshops on what they call computational thinking for everyone. And the good thing about this is that they're actually collaborating with the Board of Science Education. So these are the people who actually know how to teach at the K through 12 level. And we're also engaging learning scientists, people who understand how children learn. There are a whole bunch of other educational and outreach activities. Peter Denning has an effort on rebooting Computing Summit. I suspect people like Tom will be there. Andy Van Dam is now the CRAE Education Czar. The Educational Council of ACM has been engaged in revisiting curricula, looking at Lenore's great vision, CS4HS in every state. I hope that comes to fruition. Wonderful roadshow that we continue to put on. And then this image of computing task force that Joe Ross, Rick Rashid, and Jim Foley are engaged in. So there's a lot of activity going on in sending the basic message that computer science is not just computer programming, and that you can major in computer science and do anything, and helping to make computational thinking, commonplace. So let me just wrap up here with respect to summarizing 2.5 years later with respect to research. There was already stuff going on here at Carnegie Mellon with the help of Microsoft. We had the center. And then when I got to NSF, CDI was my vehicle by which to spread computational thinking through all science and engineering. And then there's stuff happening outside of NSF and other agencies. I've just listed here the two with respect to humanities. with respect to education through NSF, there's these two programs I mentioned already, which is also through BPC, helping to fund the effort on revisiting the AP exam. There are a lot of other agencies, organizations in computer science, probably going to be attending the Rebooting Summit. And there are a whole bunch of things that the National Academies wants to do with respect to workshops in the K through 12 level. Let me just say that I'm very proud of this particular effort, and they were able to put together a fantastic steering committee. So you'll recognize some of these names like Alejo and Bob Constable and Bill Wolf as being, senior spokesmen in the field who are really taking this this vision seriously in terms of what would it mean to have computational thinking for everyone, in particular the younger grades. And then they've got people who are interested in education and how children learn as well. So this is a steering committee. Okay, so now here's a reality check. The challenges and opportunities for computer science. And so as Seth was actually indicating, we really have a lot more to offer than I think the other science and engineering disciplines and beyond realize. But at the same time, there are opportunities for computer scientists to grab if only they knew about them. So instead of calling it a reality check, I thought I would just share with you some of these opportunities looking ahead. And not surprisingly, it's going to be a little science and engineering oriented. It's looking at big science. Now, I'm sitting now in a position where most of the people who I talk with are they're all in other science and engineering disciplines. Many of them are physicists, and they talk about big science in terms of telescopes and neutrino detectors and light sources and big instruments. To us, big science means big data and big systems. And to be able to actually handle big data, to build big systems, they are all looking to us. They are all looking to us. And it's not this handmaiden relationship. They talk in terms of we need new algorithms, we need new computational models, we need new data structures. And for instance, the GO and AD himself had his own epiphany when he hired someone before he got to the NSF. He was at NCAR. He hired someone who was a computer scientist who looked at some of the data that was being processed in terms of some of their experiments. And the computer scientist said, you know what? I can represent this data in a much more efficient data structure and tenfold speed up. And so it's just those little epiphanies that are needed to say a different algorithm, a different data structure can make a world of difference. And so there are these opportunities. I'm just going to flash some of these in front of your eyes. LIGO is this laser interferometer gravitational wave observatory. They are building this instrument to detect a gravitational wave. This is just a theory. They want to actually see it. And hundreds of physicists are engaged in this, and they're going to be producing lots of data. The IceCube Neutrino Observatory, they want to detect a neutrino, and they're building this instrument in the South Pole. Again, lots and lots of data being collected. Very interesting systems questions with respect to, for instance, getting the data there, which is, getting the data there to the warm laboratory in your office. Many interesting sensor net and communication challenges. The International Polar Year is the reason I'm mentioning this. By the way, there's a whole office of Polar at the National Science Foundation. Another one of those things I didn't know before I got at NSF. And we're right now in the middle of the International Polar Year. And the director of OPP was telling me about all this data that all the scientists are collecting for International Polar Year around the world, international. And they're not all represented in the same way. They're not all being saved in the same way. Not all of it is being saved. And then he literally turned his head to me and he said, "We really need your help, Jeannette." I said, "Yeah, I know." So unlike the first International Polar Year, which was back in the 50s, where they actually have archived all the data and they can read all that data, they are now in a position where in 20 years or 50 years, they're not going to be able to read all the data that they are even deciding to store today. The Large Hadron Collider, I think you all know about. It was a big splash. I know this has been shut down recently, but that is all about looking for the Higgs boson. And they're going to be collecting tons of data, and they're going to need the analysis of that. The ALMA is a huge telescope being built in Chile. Again, another one of these large data collectors. NEON is an interesting example because it's actually a big distributed network of sensors. And part of the nodes in the distributed network are fixed, and some of it is moving. So they've got an array of sensors that are going to sweep the whole United States, along with fixed stations. And it's all about understanding the ecological systems and biology, land use, and so on. Ocean Research Interactive Observability Networks, they are putting very grossly speaking, a big sensor net in the ocean to understand the ecological systems in marine life and also far out. And another big distributed system, if you will. Okay, so the research challenges and opportunities for computational thinking for other sciences and engineering and beyond, it's inevitable. They're going to go ahead without us no matter what. It would be just better if they were using smarter computational abstractions, and smarter programming languages, and so on. They need us, they want us, and so it's up to us to actually speak and meet these challenges. And they understand it's about abstractions and symbolic calculations, not just number crunching. But they don't understand how to solve this. Whereas this is what we know how to do this, or we like being challenged in those ways. Okay, the educational challenges and opportunities are also quite tremendous. I speak about all these different efforts at the undergraduate level, the K through 12 level, and everything. But STEM education in this country is a huge challenge. For any of you who have children in the public school system, I think you know what I mean. And the way the U.S. Public school system works is very bottom-up, very local. And there are 15,000 school districts in the U.S. If you want to, make a change to all of them, do you do it one by one, or how do you do it? And then there's the issue of training high school science and math teachers. And finally, there is still this public perception of STEM disciplines. When parents don't talk science and math at home, when they don't encourage their own children to explore and discover and innovate in scientific and mathematical disciplines, then it's hard for us. It's kind of, by the time we get the students, it's already difficult. Okay. And I think in the terms of the bigger picture, all of what computer science really has to offer is not just our technology. It's easy to be swept away with all our technological advances and to re-ask the questions we've been asking for decades with the new technology. But it's more than that. Certainly there are deep scientific questions that we as a field strive to answer, like what is computable? What is information? What is intelligence? But they're also putting our field in the context of grander societal and political challenges. If you look at what's of interest today, it's climate change and energy and environment and economics and human behavior and sustainability and healthcare and national security. And we in computer science have so much to offer to speak to each one of these. Okay, so I will close there. Thank you very much. See, I made it.
experiences outside of education per se. I mean, to be a little more concrete, it's sort of a standing joke that any 10-year-old is better at the computer than their parents. And that's not because they're taught in school, it's because they're surfing the web, checking email. And I can't help but thinking that that's because computational thinking frameworks have been laid in their brain. Because you don't see that phenomenon with other technologies.
That's right. Actually, it's a really good question, and it's a question that often comes up when I talk about this with education scientists. Because there's what I've been focused on, and too much so fixated on, is what we call formal education. But there's also informal learning. And that's actually how I think we can grab the next generation. Because they're already technologically savvy. They're already online all the time. They're already using the end products of all the research that we have been doing. So we have this fantastic opportunity to engage them and kind of pull them into the deeper scientific questions that we as a field really are trying to address. And say, you know what, we haven't solved all the problems, and we could use your help. And so I think that's exactly a very good point. Informal learning is going to be a part of this. Yes?
You have a pretty cool job, but I have a pretty cool question. Where do you really think we'll be in 50 years as a humanity, and especially with respect to global warming and how it's probably unstoppable? How can we help ensure, like as computer scientists, ensure peace and security and nutrition for humanity? And is that something in under your directorate, or is that in like more of a social computing directorate?
I'm going to answer your question as a scientist to share with all the scientists in the room how they can actually help towards a bigger problem. But before I answer that, because that's the easy part of the answer, before I answer that, let me speak to, I think, what you're really asking, which is, in my role, can I help influence, who the next president will be? Well, let me tell you, there's big difference between where I'm sitting and kind of all of what's happening right now on the Hill and the White House and so on. And if you want more details about that, I can share that with you offline. But there's still that other question I'm going to answer. At the National Science Foundation, we have a very simple mission. It's a very simple, and that is to fund the best minds to do the best research in basic science and engineering. That drives all of what we do in terms of funding the best faculty to do the best that they can do, in terms of training the next generation workforce, in terms of the graduate students, and so on. So that is our sole mission. That's unlike many other funding agencies and other agencies in the government. So NSF is really all about basic research in science and education, science and engineering. I should say basic research and education in science and engineering. Now, with respect to how can you help as a scientist or a computer scientist in terms of these global challenges, it's really to address the scientific challenges, the scientific problems that come up from trying to say, for instance, model climate, and doing the best science you can. Identifying a part of the problem which, if you can solve, could make a big difference. Okay, so it's really, as a scientist, you want to find that scientific problem that you can define and solve in a way that's going to make an impact. And if you will, the non-scientists really need us. So for instance, a lot of these models, they don't know how to initialize their models. So how do they do what-if predictions if you don't even know what to start with? So what they do is they initialize it with a range of parameters in multiple dimensions. And then they run multiple, but we as computer scientists have many ways of approaching a problem that we can offer these other scientists, if you will, and help them discover new science, do their science more efficiently, effectively, productively, and so. Now, there's actually one catch to all of what I said in terms of what we in computer science have to offer the other scientists that study the real world and nature, and that is validation. So there's also ground truth, right? And so there's also this, there's only, you can have this beautiful computer model that does this what if, but in the end, you do need to relate it back to ground truth. And so there's a closing of the loop there.
So with respect to modeling, I'm personally willing to lend an ear to climate deniers who say that modeling is fake or doesn't work. And I don't know anything about computer models to say whether they're real or not, or whether they are meaningful or predictive. But for climate change, are the models done? Have we arrived at the answer that we're posed, or do you think that helping the climate modelers will actually change the way what people think about climate change?
I think helping the climate modelers will enable us to make more definitive or precise or accurate statements so that politicians can make decisions based more on scientific evidence rather than maybe gut feeling. Yes?
So regarding K-12 I'm afraid we might have a computational thinking tree falling in education course, and no one will be there. You listed a few obstacles, like 15,000 school districts. There's many, many others.
Right.
And if you don't dislodge all of them, you might as well dislodge none of them, because they really are all obstacles. The question is, who's responsible for evangelizing this? Because it's not basic science. Once you solve all that, I'll give specific examples. Who's going to lobby the Department of Education to include computational thinking in NCLB? Who will lobby the State Department of Education to include certification in computer science and computational thinking? So you don't have that right now. You can't be certified in that. Who's going to get the schools of education to train teachers in that? Who's going to get unions to permit non-certified teachers to teach in the interim, because we don't have nearly enough teachers to teach this if we had it, and we couldn't if we wanted to without that. I can go on, and if you don't nail all of these, each one of them effectively is a veto of getting us in the classroom, in a wide-scale classroom. So is that within your directorate? And if it's not, where does that come from?
Well, there is certainly only so much that NSF can do in terms of education. There's a whole Department of Education, which is separate, obviously, and they get their own funding. But we do have an Education and Human Resources Director within NSF. And there's also only so much I can do within SIZE with respect to education. What I can do is get various constituencies who are interested in computer science and education to start coming together, speaking with one voice, and strategizing. And that's what I can do. And that's what I'm doing. But you're absolutely right. That strategy has to include the big elephant in the room, which is training the teachers. I mean, that's one big elephant, okay? So let me just give you a concrete example. One of the reasons that we're so keen on working with this AP thing is that if you can that will reach, because then you get the AP Computer Science course. And then there is a simple matter of the training of the teachers who can actually teach that course. There's where we have experience at Carnegie Mellon with 6APT, if you remember that from years ago, that was funded by NSF, that allowed us at Carnegie Mellon to bring in these high school teachers, train them to teach, it was C++ at the time from Pascal, and so that was the old days. So there are mechanisms. So I'm more optimistic than I think you are, but you are more of a realist than I am. But also in my position, I know there's only so much I can do. The least I can do is getting the community members who are engaged to be working with each other, to be thinking along a long-term strategy.
I personally cannot understand, I cannot make out the difference between interdisciplinary computer science and computational thinking. like all the things in astronomy and computer science, biology and computer science, they have been existing for the past at least 25, 30 years. So what is new about computational thinking? And one more thing, like as kids, we have always been doing computational thinking. Like personally, I knew bubble sort even before I read bubble sort, or I know that what is the shortest path between 3 points or something of that sort. So what is new? I mean,
you happen to be one of the maybe lucky ones. I don't think everyone, every child is like you. I don't think every child.
You always know how to sort numbers, right? If there is 7, 8, 9, 10, then you can.
And I think that's exactly an example of wouldn't it be nice if every child had available to him or her the notion, first of all, of sorting, and the fact that depending on the problem at hand, there are different techniques that you would use. One would be more efficient in one context than another, et cetera, et cetera. And so I don't think every child in this country views the world in that way. I think you're an exception. But I'm shooting for the world where you are not the exception.
And what is the difference between computational thinking and interdisciplinary computer science?
Okay, so I think it's, I mean, that's one way to, that's one mechanism, doing interdisciplinary research or interdisciplinary computer science, as you put it. That's one mechanism to get computational thinking pervasive. Okay, there's nothing different in that way. Computational thinking is, it's just a term. It really is the ways in which concepts fundamental to computer science. So this is not new in that sense. People have been writing textbooks on fundamentals of computer science for decades. So it's not new in that sense at all. Yes?
So you had just one example from humanities, which was the 1 million book project. First of all, I mean, there's already the 1 million book project. So I wonder if those people who approached you know about this and they say, okay, this is now all 10 billion OCR, so we want to build on top of this, or if they didn't even know, and then this would point out the problems we have in communication between the different larger sciences. And beyond this, actually when I look through the solicitations, I see a lot of STEM being asked for. And somehow, even though I was trained in physics, working in computer science, I'm very often disappointed that here seems to be such a concentration on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I ask, where's all the other stuff, the maybe languages, right? So this country is not very good to learn on foreign languages, but this is important for communication, it's important for cultural exchange and so on. So I feel maybe it's a little bit too narrow, and so there could be bridge over into these other areas. What kind of communication is supported by?
The National Science Foundation is just one funding agency in the United States, and by definition, it's focused on science and engineering. So what we can do is work with other agencies that are, and so that's why we're focused on STEM. It's not that we are not acknowledging the value of non-science disciplines. That would be the wrong message. And I certainly don't mean to send that message. It's just that the National Science Foundation is about science and engineering. So it would be almost, you know, we should focus on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and it wouldn't be in our purview or responsibility to be looking at, say, language learning and so on. On the other hand, in fact, you know, the assistant director for social and behavioral economic sciences and the director at NSF is actually a linguist by training, and he actually is very much a proponent of language learning. But that's an aside. So what we can do is work with other agencies that are more focused on the humanities, the arts, and so on. And that's where the bridge would be built. I'm certainly, as an AD in Versailles, very open to working with other agencies, with companies, with other partners in general. The thing that you pointed out with did they know about the Million Books Project, of course, which I knew about. I think they knew about it, but that wasn't, so that the project I mentioned is just one of a whole portfolio of ideas that they have in mind, and it's just that one I could talk about and kind of convey this interest. And then there is this definitely a demand coming from outside of computer science to computer science of, I think we can learn from you. I think there's some cool things we can do if we only knew how to use your techniques. And that's what I'm hearing the conversations being right now. So it's a great opportunity for us as computer scientists. John?
When you particularly put up that first slide about abstraction, this mental image of computational thinking being well, I would say far capable where the ideas that have developed in computer science, the ideas, not techniques, actually inspire ideas in other areas. And I can think of two momentous examples. One is work in artificial intelligence, which was here, which had great influence in psychology. And the other is the work that Carnegie and both authors using our conventional models of computational processes to describe and those are cases where really the abstraction we have invented have become abstractions in other fields.
That's right.
When compared to instances like that, everything you are talking about is just applied math processing. And it's not interesting at all.
But the point I'm trying to make, John, and I'm glad you chose the...
You're supposed to focus on basic research.
Yeah.
On transmission.
No. I think you're missing the point, John. The point is we do have these abstractions. We do have a lot to offer these other disciplines. And it's only now that this transference of the understanding of the basic abstractions and how they can use these basic abstractions to influence their own thinking is happening.
Well, you should have given some examples of that.
Well,
building clever algorithms to analyze DNA strands is not taking an idea from us and making it an idea in biology. It's making it one more tool for the biology to use.
I think algorithms are a lot of the kind of abstractions that we have to offer. And data structures are a lot of the kinds of abstractions that we have to offer. Process algebras, as you mentioned, or state machines that we use in terms of models of computation. But it's just now happening, John. And the reality of the situation is that the biologists have been working sufficiently long enough with the computer scientists so that the biologists are now really, truly influenced by our abstractions. And in all these other disciplines, it's so far been what I've been calling the shallow. As I said, I said this in the very beginning.
You should have given some examples of deep things.
But I can't. I'm saying, no, that's for biology. That's for biology. And I want to be able to, in 20 years, to be able to give you these deeper examples in all these other fields that I listed. But what I'm saying is that at least now these other fields are looking to us and saying, hey, I think the computer sciences really do have abstractions to offer us and to change our way of thinking. So I think you're being a little harsh on me. And second, I just want to make sure that you get my point. My point is that we're now just starting these dialogues with these other disciplines. And so it's not surprising that in a year or two, they haven't had this epiphany. Whereas we've been having this dialogue with biologists for a few years now. So it's still not an easy dialogue. And so we can point to, for instance, Luca Cardelli's work, but he started that work years ago. So give other fields some time to recognize that we have a lot to offer beyond data processing, beyond big iron. But we need to be working with them. We need to be explaining some of the power of our abstractions, listen to the way they talk, and so that we can start influencing their thinking.
But that's That's not big iron.
That's right, it's not big
Big
iron.
iron is probably counterproductive in that.
No, it's not big iron. It's the kinds of abstractions we are talking about.
And Roger will bear me out in music, but I think in every field, as one has been playing the margins for 20 years, there are people who have been thinking computationally, and there have been results, and they haven't perhaps been visible to the CS community, but I think everywhere you go, and I can give examples, you'll find people who have been developing their model of their discipline computationally from 1970 or even before. And I think in that sense you're maligning the other disciplines and ignoring the work that has been going on in these fields and saying, well, we're going to come and save your world. Well, there are people there who are already doing it, and the CS community needs to team up with those people.
And I think that's a better way to phrase it. The computer science community has to open its eyes and talk to people in these other disciplines and realize, first of all, that tremendous progress has been made, and I should know about it, and so tell me about it so I can update my slides, but also that there are still tremendous opportunities, and that we're right now at this point in our field in computer science to really do this reaching out and talking with other people in other disciplines and taking and grabbing these opportunities. And it's not just advancing the other disciplines, it's advancing computer science too. And that's really what the bigger message is.
So I was about to ask you to project that out. And at some point you'll start to realize that there's some synergy here.
Right.
At what point do you see, and I know this is an impossible question, at what point do you see it becoming a virtuous circle such that the computational thinking that we're applying and helping them within other fields generates fundamentally new research areas of computer science? Well, I got you thinking at least.
That's it is hard to predict that. I think that if you take a meta view of how all fields progress over time, new problems for any field are always cropping up, and you can't predict what is going to make that happen, whether it's a technology change or a societal need or a breakthrough in science. One thing that NSF seems to be pretty keen on these days, and I think that is something recognized by Carnegie Mellon as its core value, is that interdisciplinary research is often where there are major breakthroughs for both partners. In fact, defining new fields. So AI and psychology, kind of is somewhat at the birth of computer science at Carnegie Mellon, and that's just an example. So I can't do any of that kind of prediction, but as a meta statement, and as another meta statement, it really is, we in computer science right now are at a time where we're beyond the identity crisis thing. There things that go in phases. We worried about we as a field versus other fields. And now I think we can be pretty confident in ourselves as a field. And so now is the time to look outside our box and to see there are these opportunities. And then we'll grow, and then we'll do this over time. And Carnegie Mellon School of Computer Science is kind of epitomizes us as a field, because we expand and then we consolidate and expand and consolidate, and that's just reflecting how science is done. Let's see, you two asked questions already, so I'll go with you again.
I'd like to propose an analogy between computer science and mathematics. A lot of the people who are doing really interesting, essentially basic mathematical research nowadays are engineers, computer scientists, biologists. 100 years ago, they would have been called mathematicians. And it strikes me that, in a sense, what we should be striving to do is to create that same phenomenon in our discipline, such that in 50 years, we don't want it to be everyone else comes to us. We want it to be that in the future, there's a lot of economists, engineers, and biologists and whatever, that by today's standards could legitimately be called computer scientists. And that's the sense in which we want to disseminate computational thinking.
Right.
Pretty much everyone in this room would have been as a mathematician by the standards 200 years ago.
Right. And that's why I say that you can major in computer science and do anything. Right. Yes?
So where were you when we needed refunding for Aladdin, which was doing all of this, going back and forth? You weren't in NSF yet, so, okay. Secondly, I want to answer Philip. There's a huge amount of work in algorithms that's totally been influenced by other fields. For example, from economics, you have all the work in auctions. So the algorithms that are coming out in that area. Even the genomic work of looking at genome sequencing has influenced the way people are looking at basic algorithms. From physics, looking at these state changes, going from where SAT is easily unsatisfiable to easily satisfiable on average. All of these things are influences from other fields of basic research and algorithms, and I think you can go on and on and on and see many of these.
My point, and I think Jeanette's as well, is we need to be more on the lookout.
Right, and let me point out the example I already gave in economics, because it is I mean, Tomas can probably articulate this much better than I can, but it is certainly, for instance, the hardness of some of our problems are influencing the way the economists are thinking about their problems. And so, John, those are deep influences of computational thinking in these other fields. But it's just beginning, Okay.